Welcome back to the 16th time to your new favorite Magic the Gathering Mono Black Draft Chaff themed podcast. We're your ghosts of the coast. Everybody introduce yourselves. It is I, the most nefarious lord of lineage, Count Joseph, pronouns he, him, ha. Passing the mic to the most ghoulish and grisliest guests of the midnight hour, Ev!
It's me. I don't have a spooky voice to do. I'm sorry. What you guys can't see on camera, Joe's dressed in a full Count costume. Not Count Dracula, but the Count from Sesame Street. And he will keep it on for the remainder of the episode. I'm Ev. I use he, him pronouns. I'm ready to get spooky and scary for our Halloween episode.
And I am Bobby, and I use they and the he pronouns, and my voice is worse than Joe's voice, and kind of just it's deteriorating by the sentence. Welcome to our Halloween episode. We're big Halloween enjoyers, and we hope you are too. We're doing a classic episode. We're doing our top 10 creature types of EDH, ranked by EDH Rec score. But we're not grading them on EDH Rec score. We're grading on them as how much of that creature type are they. We did an episode with beasts. We rated how beast are they on a scale from F to S+. We did this with spiders. And now, because it is this spooky holiday of Halloween, we are doing horrors.
I think you guys kind of led people on there by doing the vampire voices. I mean, they probably clicked on the episode and seen the thumbnail and the title, but
Yeah,
I would be
no,
confused.
Well, here's the thing. You guys didn't have to do vampire. I played vampire. You could have howled.
I could have howled. You're right.
You could make clattering skeleton noises.
But we're also not doing werewolves. So
what noise does a horror
Anyway, we're talking
make?
about horrors.
what? Yeah, wait, Joe. What noise does a horror make? Can you do it for us?
Oh, it's really gross and slappy.
No,
I could do it, but it's not going to be picked up on the mic. Also, before we move on deeper into the episode, due to the date that this is releasing on, everybody, please, in the comment sections below, those of you who have made it this far into the video, wish Bogstomper Bobby a happy birthday. They'll have to go through the comment section to make sure nobody calls us soy boys or anything, just like the previous episode, so they'll see it and feel very, very grateful for your love and care and devotion given to our loyal editor, co-host, and probably many more hats. Anyways, enough about this, probably the least horrific bog stomper here. We have to talk about horrors. So, we've determined our order, what we're going to go in, and we're going to keep on that for the rest of the episode. Please, dear God, let's not fuck it up and get confused halfway through. Do we have anything to say overall about horrors before we go in, or do we want to just naturally discuss them as it crops up?
We've previously talked about creature types that are, I don't know, maybe this is more like elementals, where I think what is denoted a horror could be complete nonsense. Like, it is pretty much up to the designer and the world, and I think there are some things that are like, yeah, I couldn't describe this as anything else but a horror, and I think there are other things that I'm like, I understand why this is a horror, and I am interested in where these cards are gonna lie on that line from this is a horror definitively to it's a horror. I couldn't sure, you know.
I think my argument before we get into it is that horrors are more defined by their first creature type, because horror is always second. But we'll see as we go through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy to tell what is and isn't a horror. Did they need to change this card because of the satanic panic from being a demon?
Fair enough. Joe, what's our first card?
Our first card, part of many things we're going to see revisited this episode, other subtypes, perhaps even a cycle that it's involved with. We're talking about Zopandrel, Hunger Dominus. 5, 2 green for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Horror with Reach. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn, and the activated ability for 2 Phyrexian green mana, aka either a green mana or 2 life. Sacrifice 2 other creatures, put an indestructible counter on Zopandrel Hunger Dominus. It is a 4/6. It's also worth a lot of money because it's a mythic rare. It's probably the most honest Dominus, and I know I did make a clip about its price, but it's only like $10 depending on the printing. I think just making a big dumb guy feels a lot more fun Magic design space. Holy shit, Selesnya player hot take here. I know. It's just way more interesting to me than whenever you do a thing, do it again. I hate that design. I hate the other Dominuses. I think they're fucking stupid. I never run cards like these in my decks. But we're not talking about how good of a design it is, how novel it is. How horror is it? I'll be honest.
Well,
Zopandrel's kind of, to me, this is a praying mantis. That's
Yeah,
what
as
it
I say,
looks like to me.
it's more buggy. It's more insectoid.
It's a
than
pretty
anything.
horrific bug.
Yeah, I mean, so that means it's pretty horror. Like I
And
said,
let's
I feel
get
like it's
this out of the
more defined by
way.
its-
Keep in mind, we're American, right? For any international listeners, we are saying the word horror. HORROR. It might sound a little different each time we say it if we're slurring our diction a little, but that is what we are always saying throughout this episode.
Gotta really enunciate it this time. Yeah, I don't know. It's up there. Unlike you, I do like the other Dominus effects because I like when things happen twice. A hot take from the Is It player. It's
Bobby,
pretty
you're
horror.
sitting in the back. What are you doing? What do you think about Zopandrel?
I'm so confused by this card. I think it's partially because it's the first horror we've ranked. I think in 2 cards we're gonna see a Phyrexian horror that I think marks what I think a horror kind of is to some degree in Magic the Gathering. But yeah, this is a big monster. This is debatably a beast. You know, like it's just a big guy who gets bigger and turns all your other things bigger. Like, I don't know. It's just a big thing. And I know that I think it's interesting that it's a mono green take on a horror. You know, we have after this we have had the Overlord of the Hauntwoods, but we don't usually get like mono green horrors outside of like old Phyrexian stuff. So I guess this could be what a mono green horror looks like, but I don't have any strong opinions on this either way. I don't think it's completely not a horror. I don't think it's entirely a horror. I think this could be like a solid B tier entry. I do love that it has reach.
I think you've narrowed in on a few things that actually are really important when we're classifying horrors, especially when you look at that one further up the list. The Phyrexian creature type, I think, is innately very horror, because most Phyrexians were horrors before they made Phyrexian a type in and of itself, or there were zombies or other things. So I think that's a good reinforcement, especially because Zopandrel came out after the errata, meaning this was an intentional choice, not a change. And then additionally, paying Phyrexian mana as a cost. This is related to horrors. I think this feels horrific, mostly because of the rest of the cycle, and again, future cards we'll look at. My issues with it, green. When I'm thinking about the horror creature type, I think black, and then I think blue, and I don't really think past that. A mono green horror, even if it's the most horror mono green can be, isn't very horror.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about the card Creekwood Liege. Creekwood Liege is 1 and 3 hybrid Golgari for a horror 2/2. Black creatures get +1/+1, other green creatures get +1/+1, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you can make a 1/1 black and green worm. This feels a little to me what a green horror would be, being a natural aspect of horror, kind of like the kind of nature versus man stories that you'd find in horror media, where it's like, oh, we did something to the land and now the land is coming back to kill us. But Zopandrel is just a big monster. Zopandrel is not, the forces of the forest or something like coming to life and hunting people. It is just a big guy that Vorinclex made, and in his quest to make the biggest big guy.
It's a kaiju.
Yeah.
This is Godzilla.
Again,
you could print this on
different
Ikoria with different flavor. And yeah, I know there's also Godzilla cards in this game. You son of a bitch. You could print this with Ikorian flavor. I think another good example was exactly as I said, the Overlord of the Hauntwoods. Tragic that none of the Overlords are in the top 10 because spoiler alert, but they're bangers. They're all so fucking cool. They're so horrific.
Cards.
If they weren't $1 million, I bet they would be.
Yeah.
They've been coming down. Boiler Bilges is cheap, and then some of the other ones have been crashing.
All right, so what tier are we putting this in? What's the
I feel like this is
placement?
solid, like middle of the pack, like C.
I think this
very
is
top
also
of C.
C.
Yeah, see, I'm
Like
happy
this
with
is
C.
our sort of right in the balancing act between horror and not horror.
All right, are we ready to move on to our second horror of the spooky evening we have here? There's thunder and lightning crackling
Ooh.
outside our window. Let's
I'm ready.
let's go on to the horror plane of Innistrad, where we find the Gitrog Monster. This is 3, a black and a green, a frog horror legendary creature. Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog Monster unless you sacrifice a land. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. This is a 6/6. I like this card a lot. I think it's cool. I'm a frog player. I don't think I've actually ever played Gitrog Monster, even though I love graveyard decks and I love frogs. But I appreciate the reference it has to Chubtoad with the arm dangling out of the Gitrog Monster's mouth. That being said, the question we're asking here is, how horror is it? And this guy's just a big frog. It's just a big frog. Like, I guess it has teeth, but it like draws
He's a big scary
cards
frog.
and is big. I guess it is Death Touch. Maybe that's horror-y. I don't really know.
I think you're so wrong. I mean, first of all, pull up all the arts of this card. This card is some
I
banger art.
love the art.
Mhm.
The Bloomburrow one is in particular is maybe my favorite.
I like the poster in spite of the fact that I hate cards like this.
I do
Especially
also like the poster.
Death Touch streaking across the top all spookily. But I think
Like
this is so horror. Like, it has Death Touch. It's black. It cares about sacrificing things. It cares about graveyards. Like, those are that's spooky. It's from Innistrad, the horror plane. Like, this guy's he's so thematically horror. His Ludo narrative, to steal an overused term from video essays, is reinforcing like a horror-y vibe.
I think Gitrog Monster is pretty horror. I think big giant frog that eats you is inherently pretty scary. I also, thinking about the last card, I think being able to pay your resources for stuff is pretty horror. Like, you have to make a sacrifice in order to make this thing happen. Like with the Dominuses that we're going to talk about, and any like the Phyrexian mana inherently makes you have to give stuff up in order to get this like creature really going. And I think that happens with Gitrog also.
Yeah.
It's like you guys haven't seen the horror classic Frogs.
Have you seen the horror classic Frogs?
I watched Dead Meat review it. Good enough.
Evan brought up an interesting point that he said, this is a scary guy. Is that the mark of a horror? Like, are we just going by like, is this
How freaky
spooky?
is it?
Because like, yeah, I think both.
I mean,
the
yeah.
thing that Joe said is that like, yes, it sacrifices things. So did Zopandrel, and we didn't really comment on that, right? But we're talking about the Gitrog Monster in a way that like it sacrifices lands, which feels inherently more horror-y. But I think it's like Joe said, it's just, and like Evan said, it's just because of the card. It's just because it's called the monster in its name. And I think it has some of this like folk horror element of like, you can imagine being on Innistrad, being at some shady inn, and you hear a rumor about the Gitrog Monster, and you're not sure if it really exists somewhere out there in the swamps. Yeah, I'm happy with this guy. I think you've convinced me that the Gitrog Monster dwelling in this bog that we record all of our episodes in, it's pretty horror.
Dude, we gotta
I
get
think
the
it's
Gitrog Monster on
important.
the podcast.
We gotta hit him up. I'll call his
Yeah.
agent after this. I think it's
Awesome.
important too that, like, we were talking about sacrifice. Zopandrel, it's like it's an ability you're gonna activate once. You're never gonna activate it again, really, with him on the board. And it's like an optional additional thing. It's not what the card's doing. Versus the Gitrog Monster is all about, like, you have to sacrifice. It is a mandatory effect.
I would also argue the act of like paying the Phyrexian mana and not having to pay your life, but having the option to like give life in order to give this thing power is what part of Zopandrel gives it more inherent like horror qualities. Like Joe was saying that Phyrexians are inherently very horror based, and I think the Phyrexian mana especially, and like a game sense, allows you to really feel that because you have to like sacrifice something to get it out, and that I think on its own is spooky and scary.
So what do we think about Gitrog Monster?
A?
I'm Team B.
B? B?
I
B.
was team A.
I was
but-
gonna say,
you know-
Yeah, we'll split the difference. Hey.
yeah, sure.
A.
That sounds good to me. All right.
I also just really like Gitrog Monster. I'm biased, but that's okay.
Frog.
It's short for a Gitrog Monster.
Exactly. We turn A tier to G tier and just totally fuck up all of our lists.
Yeah, let's keep fucking destroying our stupid tier list that goes from S to M now. Yeah, this
Oh,
is
I
gonna be
forgot we
great.
had M.
Of course, with M
Make sure.
tier.
Go watch
Let's see if there are
Spiders.
Go watch
any M
Spiders.
horrors.
All right, what's
All
next?
right,
do you
next
have?
card. We have Spellskite. For 2 mana, you get an artifact creature, Phyrexian Horror. It has an activated ability, 1 blue Phyrexian mana, so again, a blue mana or 2 life. Change a target of target spell or ability to Spellskite. It's a 0/4. Flavor text reads, let's show Vorniclex that progress doesn't always need teeth or claws. Malcator, Executor of Synthesis.
I
Got a
think
Furby
Malcator's
card.
pretty cool. He's an elephant.
Malcator is an
That's true. I
elephant.
do love
Pretty
Malcator.
cool.
Banger in my Golems deck.
Yeah,
Banger in my slightly different than Golems deck.
I think this guy's good. I like this guy as a horror. I think it's freaky, and it's one of the instances of this could not be classified as anything else, to my understanding. Like, it could just be a Phyrexian, I guess, but it's not just a Phyrexian. It's a Phyrexian horror. This is a freaky little guy. I think even, this came out pre-errata, where they got the Phyrexian type. So in New Phyrexia, in its original printing, it's just an artifact creature horror. But I don't think it would make sense as just an artifact creature Phyrexian. I think just the way it's posed, and it's a weird effect, and the fact that it's like a 0/4 that acts as bolts to all of your spells. You can picture like fighting this guy in your wizard battles, and you're shooting a lightning bolt, and this thing just snatches that energy into it. It's a freaky little 4-legged guy.
I was gonna say all the arts for this
Yeah.
is really evocative, minus the Furby art.
No, there's not a Furby.
other
Oh
two that are-
god, there's a Furby art.
The other
I thought
The
we
other two that are up there,
escaped.
the 2 super layer ones, I think are really great. I can give that same sort of feeling that Bobby's talking about of like you can understand in like a narrative sense how this thing works. It's got a big ball that attracts all of the magical energy, and then a bunch of freaky little legs, and that's pretty horror. And
Me
again, like
pondering
I
my
was saying, I
orb.
think me pondering my orb. I think the Phyrexian mana is also inherently a little horror adjacent. It is I know it's Phyrexian mana, but I think being able to pay something that is valuable to you is like a solid horror trope in the larger, media lens, and also lends itself well here into game design.
Yeah, doing a little cursory investigation, I don't even think there is a card that is exclusively type Phyrexian. They're all either Phyrexian horrors, zombies, or beasts, the ones that you would think of. With the exception of, like, ones that have a job. Like, if they're gainfully employed, that's different. So yeah, like, how else would you describe it other than horror? To be honest, I'm not scared of this guy. He's got 0 power. He's lame. Like, he's a little dweeb. He's got blue in his ability. Like, this is a nerd. Like, I feel like I could step on him and he'd die, but like, whatever. I guess he feels like a horror, but he doesn't feel horrific to me. That's my issue.
Yeah, he's very much like a little minion of something else, bigger. Maybe I think he could be a portent of things to come, and that's what's scary. What if it was him
If
but larger
you
and evil?
added Gremlin to his type, I wouldn't
Mhm.
do a double take. And like, to me, I'm just not going to be scared of a Gremlin in my life.
Is this
Not even the scary ones.
dude? Do you know what happens when you feed those things after midnight?
No, that's the Mogwai. Gremlins are different. Come on, learn your lore.
Oh, there's gonna be Gremlin Secret Lair. Spellskite, yeah, I think it's like solid A tier. I think it's a freaky little guy. I would be scared. It's like it shows up at the beginning of the horror movie. It's not the big bad, but then
Yeah.
the first movie is called Spellskite,
it's
and the
like,
second movie is called Spellskites.
That's the thing. Is it's the little aliens dogs that they put in the latex costumes that skitter around in the vents.
Yeah.
You ever seen that clip
Oh,
of where
yeah.
they take these little
Yeah.
like wolfhound looking
Mhm.
things? And
Next card. Oh wait, no, wait. What do we rank this? B, A, B.
A?
I'm pro
A.
B. I don't think it's on the same level as Gitrog.
I also don't think it's Gitroggable.
All right, I'll say B.
I think it's sub Gitrog, but it's still respectable. Like, if I got a B, I wasn't mad when I went home.
And
And
Spells.
Spellskite isn't either.
Good for you, Spellskite. All right, let's move
Show
on. Back to a top 10 classic.
Returning
This is a card I've
to,
never seen
in
before.
fact, the B tier beast himself, B for Beast, Ravenous Chupacabra. In case you aren't a Bogstompers super fan who saw every single one of our videos and commented about how we're soy boys in the description, Ravenous Chupacabra costs. We love you. Please keep doing that. 2 and 2 black creature, beast horror. When Ravenous Chupacabra enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls. With the flavor text, opening Arazka unleashed more horrors than just the immortal sun. 2/2. This is a great card. This was a banger in Beasts. A lot of killer artwork. Also, open up the Bad Boys Scryfall page to see its unique borders and its lovely alternate art.
I think the
I
poster for
think
this one is something for sure.
well, that's what it looks like. Like, what was
Yeah, no,
Wizard
I know.
supposed to do? Make up
It's
what a
just- it's like-
Chupacabra is?
No, I agree. It's just that like they put it in like a picture day setting versus like the cool poses in the regular. I think it's really funny. It's like, all right,
All right,
Chupacabra,
kind of
smile
fair.
for picture day.
I love this card. Whenever there's a card that is like trying to do the thematics of its narrative, be that like creature type, name, art, etc., and it does it in the most minimal amount of words possible, I'm gonna give it higher marks. If it can communicate, this is a beast horror. What do the beasts and the horrors do? They eat things and they kill things respectively. Therefore, it comes down and it destroys. I love it. Like this is a killer horror to me. And also, it's scary. Imagine paying for your Ur-Dragon, slamming it on the battlefield, and then some idiot with a precon goes, look at this dumbass, and puts down a Ravenous Chupacabra, and it's gone.
Yeah, it's a great. Yeah, I'm with you on this one. This is a great horror and a great
It's a
beast. I wasn't
banger.
there for that episode, but I think this is a great beast. I don't remember where you guys ranked it.
B for
B
beast.
for beast.
Did you guys rank all the beasts in B? No, I watched the
No.
episode. You didn't. Would have been a funny bit though. What happened if I was there?
Yeah, we're pretty funny. Yeah, the flavor text tells us it's a horror, so it has to be.
S tier.
Flavor text is the ultimate judge of how horror is it. Yeah, I think it is some degree of horror. I think maybe it's not what we immediately think of as a horror, but what else are you gonna say a Chupacabra is other than a beast horror? I think it's translating this mythology like so many Magic cards, especially in that era, tended to do. That I don't think we can say this isn't a horror. I think it excels at that. I don't think it's screaming to me S+ tier horror, but I think it's solid like A. It's simple, like Joe said, it does the thing, it translates the media well.
Is it more horror than it is beast? Because if it was a B tier beast, if it's an A tier horror, it's better at representing being a horror than a beast, and we have to have some amount of internal.
just because I don't remember and I didn't watch the episode, what was your guys' like final consensus on what a good beast is? Like, what was the top tier beast you guys ranked? If you can
Big.
remember us. Big.
Cares
Okay.
about
Well,
big.
It was like
Green.
Thunder
I
and
think this is-
Gandalf's or something.
sure. Oh yeah. Okay. I think this is inherently a better horror then, based on that criteria. So you think A and not S?
I think A.
I do think because keep in mind we rated it really high despite it not being green. It's also small and like it doesn't care about big things. So I think this has a lot of internal consistency in our logic. I do agree. I think an A tier horror, B tier beast makes sense for this card.
Great.
And it's something we're gonna have to confront more and more when we cover more and more creature types.
We're done with this card. We never have to talk about Ravenous Chupacabra again. We talked about all the important parts of the card. It's 2 creature types.
I do want to peek behind the curtain here. Bobby once said to me, whenever Joe evaluates a card, he stops at the type line. And he was so fucking right for that. This is all I give a shit about. There's a reason why I push for these episodes every week. I fucking adore talking about creature types. And yeah, it's kind of sad that we're gonna have to take Ravenous Chupacabra out back and put it down because we've used it up for all the content juice.
Yep.
We
Then
have
it can
to play
expel.
another Ravenous Chupacabra to take care of this one. And then it's a whole thing. It's just like it's an endless cycle. It's really difficult to get rid of.
Mhm. Mark Rosewater, errata Ravenous Chupacabra right now. Add another creature type. We can do it.
Just keep adding types.
We're really gonna make what is it the non-brushwag card from Unfinity even better.
Yep. All right.
All right, Bobby, what's our next card?
Our next card is another Phyrexian horror, but this time it is a Phyrexian bird horror. This is Thrummingbird. 1 in a blue for a 1/1 with flying, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. This has been reprinted a million times, originally printed in Scars of Mirrodin. It's a silly little bird thing. It is these 2 arts. One of them it's hanging out with Tameo. One of them it's in some needle field, and I guess it has this alternate art where it's black and white. It's not the best of these style of arts that came in the Phyrexian booster packs. Admittedly, I do like that style. It's simple. It proliferates. It gets counters. It's a bird, though. This is a bird, right?
As the number one birds pilot of the format, I don't like this card in birds. I've rarely, if ever, seen it actually pop off to any kind of effectiveness, and I don't think it does anything that's exceptionally bird. And to answer your question there with that, I do feel like it's pretty horror, though. You know, it's Phyrexian, and by the way, it's called Razor Grass. You idiot. In the art where it's depicted above that field instead of with Tamiyo, I do think it looks spooky. I think it looks scary. I think it looks insidious. And proliferate is an inherent Phyrexian mechanic, so it's an inherent horror mechanic in my eyes. Now, is it the most Phyrexian bird horror? No, that goes to Tainted Observer, despite not being a horror. But that all being said, I do like it. I think I'm pro it. But Ev, why don't you moderate my opinion? Why don't you say something that makes me viscerally angry?
I was thinking that'll make you angry. You want me to say it?
Sure.
If you run it in birds, you can proliferate the feather counters on Kongi.
It never works. Don't do that.
I know. I'm just
Kongi players never do that.
I know. I think it's okay. I don't think I don't know if it's more horror than any of the things we've seen today. I think the original art makes it freakier. Again, we were looking at art a little more this episode because, like, what the fuck is that? It's not quite a bird. Is that an eye in its the middle of its body?
All I'm saying is this bird pecks you, you get a little sicker. That's the thing, baby.
That was probably a reference to something. I still think it's a bird. I think because it's
Yeah,
tiny
the thing.
and it just.
Well, wait, what?
Like-
No, it's not. There are no birds in the thing. There's none of us.
Oh,
There's a
shit.
dog.
I must have watched the wrong video. It had like Whitney Moore in it.
That's okay. You're thinking of acclaimed hit movie Birdemic.
Oh fuck! I
Yeah,
got
of
these.
course.
I got these
Not a-
horror classics confused.
Not a,
John
okay,
Carpenter's Birdemic doesn't exist.
it's okay. Kurt Russell's in both.
It's a bird.
Would Birdemic be a better movie if Kurt Russell was there?
Probably. Anyway.
Thrummingbird is a 1/1 that hits you in the air. A really early game. It's a bird. I'm so sorry. It's not a horror.
Yeah, I don't think this is very horror at all.
I do
this
think you
rank's pretty
could
low.
summarize this card though as John Carpenter's Birdemic.
Sure.
And that's scary.
That's pretty freaky. We find.
I think it gets at least a point for being a Phyrexian that proliferates. So
Yeah,
I don't think
it's
I don't think I
bad.
can good conscience fail it or even give it
Yeah.
D.
I think it can hang out with Solphim. Not Solphim. That's the
I
next
think it's
one.
worse.
Fucking Zopandrel.
Yeah, I think it's lower than Zopandrel.
Yeah, right.
It's not as good as Zopandrel.
Sorry, I was reading my next card.
What is your next card, Evan? Why don't you read it aloud to the class?
I'm glad you asked. It's Solphim, Mayhem
Oh.
Dominus. For 2 and 2 red, you get legendary creature, Phyrexian Horror. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. And then, for 1 and 2 Phyrexian red mana, we've been over what that means, you discard 2 cards, put an indestructible counter on Solphim, Mayhem Dominus. It is a 5/4. I love the art on this one. I really like this guy. This guy is freaky, very like spiky, pain oriented. I like the lava flowing out of this thing. I don't know how horror it is, but you know, it might end up in C tier with the other Dominuses.
I think it was really, really cool kicking your ass with Thrummingbird in a cube event when you had Solphim. That was really fun.
I think
True.
Solphim is. There's a weird disconnect in Solphim where the art on like the baseline is very like almost like calm and contemplative and like just like gonna like bring pain and all about pain, but then the name is like Mayhem Dominus, and I think that's really odd because like the art is not screaming mayhem at all, and then you think you look at the alternate arts and you're like, especially the black and white Phyrexian ink treatment by Dominic Meyer, it's so good. It like this went from a like middle of the pack horror to me to like top of A tier because this art is just so cool. It's like kind of got this like Vitruvian Man energy, but it's like, what if the Vitruvian Man was killing you with spikes? And yeah, I think something about horror is just like death and destruction for kind of no reason, and I think that's what this art of Solphim screams to me. I think this is doubling damage is I think how you interpret Red's version of horrors, much like the boiler bilges Avatar that we saw before. This is Red's take on horror much more than Zopandrel is Green's take on horror.
I like that argument. I like this card, so I'm I'm inclined to agree with you.
I do think the original art of Solphim, we have to be honest, like, horror is also a genre, obviously, and there's a legacy about it. And to me, Solphim feels like it plays into the same space as things like Yixila Jailer and Razorkin Needlehead and Crick, one of which of those even is a horror itself. Where it's the very Hellraiser-inspired pain, pleasure. And you see this sort of thematic heartline run through a lot of horror ever since Clive Barker's sort of magnum opus on this piece, and then every single shitty, awful movie that came afterwards. And that's not to derail the entire podcast to talk about Hellraiser, probably my third favorite horror franchise. But like that's a whole thing to do with the Cenobites in that, you know, angels to some, demons to others. They're outside of like good and evil, and if I were to represent them in Magic the Gathering, I would choose horror. Horror is this catch-all term for things that are, like you said it in the way of they're very primal and senseless, but I think it's more that they're alien, right? They don't necessarily conform to our notions of right and wrong, good and evil, biology versus machine, divine versus demonic. Horrors are all the stuff that come in the weird space, and we see that in the AFR set, right? AFR is how we represent all the extraplanar creatures of the Astral Sea, right? The Aboleth, the Illithid, etc., the Intellect Devourers. Horror is this thing that has to encompass a lot, and we're struggling against that vagueness, but I think if we kind of just relent to it, much like the terrible, weird sadomasochism of Solphim, we'll have a what is it? One must imagine Sisyphus happy moment, and we're like, no, I can see the lines. I can figure out this is Solphim is a horror.
Yeah.
Like I understand it to be a horror now because I'm not trying to improperly narrow down what a horror can be when it's such an expansive term.
Yeah, I think there's.
I mean similar to Elemental, where Elemental is like there's all this weird fucking shit
Mhm.
happening with Elementals. And I think it's we didn't go into this like much of an analysis to like what an Elemental is in like a larger sense, like we are with horror, because horror is its own genre. Is like defined much broader, but I agree with you in that Solphim is a horror because that shit's scary.
Yeah,
I think the worst thing a horror can be is comprehensible. Like if we look at it and we go, oh, that's just a big frog, that's a knock against it. I do like Gitrog because it does play on like a legacy of films and books and things of like big scary thing in the swamp folk horror, because Mothman's just a big scary moth, like whatever. If I look at it and I immediately am like, that's a dog, it's not a good horror. Like it's just whatever. But if I struggle to put it to words because it's in the gray area of a lot of other types, it reinforces itself as a horror. And I think like you look at Solphim, and we don't 100% love the narrative of how in half of its depictions it's very chaotic and thrashing and violent, in half it's very serene and peaceful and that more cold, sort of weird, monastic, unsettling nature. But what the fuck else are you typing that thing?
Yeah.
I think that makes it super horror.
Yeah,
For sure.
To flex the English minor, Gothic horror I think is kind of all about and based on the things that you can't put a label on, and how we as humans are inherently afraid of things that we can't immediately go, oh, this is A, this is B. Horror, I think, like Joe said, it's defined by the indefinable. We look at this thing and go, oh God, what is it? I guess it's a horror. And also, in Joe's reference of Hellraiser, I'm thinking of, like, they named Elish Norn the Grand Cenobite on her first card. I know that she technically is not a horror. She's just a Phyrexian Praetor. But I think this being very adjacent to her, I think speaks to that design philosophy in the Phyrexians and in the horrors of Phyrexia. So I'm happy with this at A, or maybe even an S. I feel like Solphim has kind of unlocked the key to what horrors are.
I think
for Solphim.
Let me be clear. Fucking hate the Domini. I don't like Panharmonicons. Hate the color red. Don't give a fuck about this card when we started this episode. You guys have really made me come around on it, especially with how well it plays into like the Hellraiser vibe. Like doubling damage is a very cool way of representing Red's horrific elements. Bobby, you got me on that. Like, yeah, I think this only fits S now because like there's so many ways you could analyze this card. Like this is a card that makes me want to write a 40-minute video essay.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, we're getting there, baby. All right, S for Solphim. Who's after me, Bobby? Or no, Joe's next card. Joe, so what's the next card?
Hey.
After your revelation.
Oh, and I got a banger. Let's
You
fucking
do.
go.
This one's awesome.
This is Chasm Skulker, 2 and a blue for creature squid horror. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Chasm Skulker. When Chasm Skulker dies, create X 1/1 blue squid creature tokens with Island Walk, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Chasm Skulker. It is a 1/1. Notably, it was designed by Mike Newman during the time when they were bringing other people in to work on Magic cards for M15. I love this card. I think it's so perfect for a horror. The fact that it's a squid too, it gels really, really well with notable horror commander Captain Ingathrod. Like it matches the Guilt Feeder reprint where it has the Mind Flayer art. All the other Mind Flayer themed cards from D&D. It looks right. Like it is the epitome of, rather than being like, you know, the monster movie horror with like the kaiju level stuff of Zopandrel, or like Hellraiser, or folk horror, or these other things that we've been discussing. This is really, really your Lovecraftian horror meat and potatoes. Weird, fucked up squid. Exactly right. And
Yeah.
It's also a squid that becomes more squids based off of the dark, occultic, insidious knowledge that you're able to covet and consume. Like, it's such a good design. I do fuck with Chasm Skulker heavy. All my homies love Chasm Skulker. I think this is great.
Yeah, this card's awesome. Yeah, easy. I think easy A or S tier for me. This is a great card. I was gonna you covered it also, but I'm gonna say it again. I think the fact that when it dies, it makes a bunch of other little guys like bursting out of it. You know, that to me is inherently a very horror narrative thing that happens. You know, often across the genre. And this is just a great epitome of that. It's also that those become, I mean, not totally unblockable, but giving them Island Walk also makes it, you know, in a game sense scarier, because like shit, if you're playing blue and a Chasm Skulker comes out, you're like, if this thing dies and I let this guy draw a couple cards, I'm super screwed because a bunch of little squids are gonna come and murder me dead.
Also notably, those little squids, banger art.
Yes.
Like,
yeah,
it really reinforces the theme. They're not technically horrors themselves, but they damn well could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't look at the Final Fantasy printing and its corresponding token art.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't count.
This thing reminds me of the horrors, I would say, at the end of Chuck Tingle's classic Camp Damascus. This is a reference for Joe and 3 other people in the audience, and you're my
No,
favorite
it doesn't.
people.
What the fuck are you talking about?
You know when the little, you know how
oh
yes,
yes,
come out?
not the demons, the
yeah,
other things.
yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I still got to read this book.
Go book.
It's a banger.
Banger.
Read Bury Your Gaze, read Camp Damascus, read Lucky Day. They're all great.
Yeah.
I have like 50 pages left in the current last Dungeon Crawler Carl book, and then I'm onto some Chuck Tingle, I think.
S plus?
Hell yeah. We'll do a book club for patrons when we launch the Patreon.
S plus? Is this an S plus? Is this S? S plus?
I think S plus.
We're not making S plus. We're not pretending that's a thing.
What about SQ for Squid?
No, this is an S tier. S for Squid.
S for Squid.
I don't think it's perfect. It's blue, which is good but not great. I'd like it to be black. Like I do genuinely think this is one of the best, most indicative horrors of the game, especially when we look at it from like a Lovecraftian cosmic horror sense. I don't think it's so good that it redefines what a horror is, and I think for S plus you have to be like the ultimate banger.
Yeah. Can I talk about the ultimate banger? I want to talk about
maybe not.
I want to talk about Psychosis Crawler. This is 5 mana for an artifact creature, Phyrexian Horror. Psychosis Crawler's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your hand. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. It is, of course, a star with the flavor text. If that brain can't figure out the secret of the serum, then add more brains from Vermeer, Hand of the Augur. I think this is the perfect horror. I think it has enough from the Phyrexian side of it, but I think a lot of the time when we see these Phyrexian horrors, it's more Phyrexian than horror. I think this is more horror than Phyrexian. There's something about this weird brain in a jar manipulating these legs that, upon closer inspections, look like the backs of like a crocodile. It's so freaky. It has a little mouth on the front. If you like zoom in on the art, this thing is just like awful. This thing is terrible and freaky and scary and will kill you. And it's great, and it dies whenever anybody wheels. This is a stellar horror. It's one of my favorite cards. It's one of my favorite horrors.
This was the first Magic cards I remember like really liking, because I bought a like Toski precon list initially to get into Commander, and this is in it. And it was great in there. And I remember playing and be like, this thing's awesome. I love this brain in a jar with legs that deals damage to people whenever I draw a bunch of cards. This card's great.
But is it horror? Because, like, let me be honest. You could just type this thing construct, and, like, Wizards did in the Fallout set. Like, I don't think this is inherently any more horror than a lot of things are. Like, yeah, it's spiky, but now it's just an edgy construct. Like, it looks like the constructs from Esper. Like, Anax, Filigree, whatever.
I think the brain being suspended in the jar is inherently like, oh, that's a pretty like classic horror thing, like very like old, like old school, like, oh, you
But
see
it's
a
also
haunted
old
house.
sci-fi.
It's like, I guess so, that's true, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, because we're looking at it, it can be multiple things at once. I'm just looking at it from this context now, which makes me think of horror because we're actively talking about it. I think the brain being connected to like a monstrous body makes it more horror oriented. Bobby's holding up his finger.
Yeah, because I'm this is the talking stick. I want to try to convince Joe by saying one thing. I'm gonna read the flavor text of this is the retro frame version from Brothers War. It's the like concept art sketch version, which the flavor text says, "Perhaps drawing the impossible monster will lessen the burden my memory must bear," says Yarsil in their diary. I think that's the key, is that like this, looking at this thing impairs you with this like terrible memory and pain in your psychosis, and that is a horror thing to me, right? Like, I'm understanding to use the word again, ludonarrative of this card being, it's not that when you draw a card as the planeswalker controlling this thing, Psychosis Crawler goes around and whacks each of your opponents with its little leg knives. I think it's like when you are drawing cards, when you are learning information from your library, Psychosis Crawler is like taking that knowledge and causing psychic damage to your opponents. And I think that's so inherently horror and so inherently freaky, and how this thing works and acts on a completely different level than we're aware of. It's not just a construct doing like a construct's work. It's not programmed. This is like a living, feeding thing that, sure, happens to be an artifact, happens to be a Phyrexian that's been corrupted from the forces of Mirrodin, but it is, I think, archetypical horror to me.
I mean, I kind of have to disagree with that assessment because, like, well, first of all, that flavor text is just to explain why it's on Dominaria, but they did it again, and it was just a construct the next time they attempted it. Like, they made Scrawling Crawler, they made Psychosis Crawler 2, and they were like, yeah, it's a construct. It's just a normal ass thing.
I think the lore of that's very different, because it's
Is this thing also psychically damaging you in the same way, because it's the same mechanic? It's the same.
No. That's when your opponent draws a card. My defense of Psychosis Crawler has nothing to do with Scrawling Crawler. That's who cares about that card?
Scrawling Crawler doesn't have a brain suspended in it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like, if they reference it in the future and they're like, let's do this again, and it's still in a lot of ways the same card, but it's not a horror anymore, and if you can just remove the horror aspect of a card, was it really ever that horror to begin with?
I don't know. We can't fault Psychosis Crawler for the sins of a games designer 13 years later.
I can't.
We totally can. I was gonna say, that's what we're doing. Bobby, that's what this whole podcast episode is. I need you to understand that. That is wrong. You are wrong.
Listen, I don't think you're ever going to get me on the side of this. To be honest, I have a bias against artifact creatures in general, because I think that they're lame. I have a bias against cards that do shit like this. I live and die in Commander like an honest man, beating the shit out of my opponents with my fists instead of bullshit like counters and wheels and uh, strategies that require more than 4 IQ to play. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to actually beat this down off of whatever high tier that you guys want to put it in.
I mean, do we want
So
to
I
put
think
it in
B tier.
B? I think that's fair.
I'll put it in. I feel like I personally would put it higher, but I think as a compromise of
Yeah.
general opinion on this podcast, I think B feels fine.
yeah, we can average S and D tier to B.
Great. All right, we got 2
All
more
right.
horrors here.
Boy, howdy, I get 2 of the Domini. Next up is Mondrak Glory Dominus. 2 and 2 white. Legendary creature, Phyrexian Horror. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. 1, 2 white Phyrexian mana. Sacrifice 2 other artifacts and or creatures. Put an indestructible counter on Mondrak Glory Dominus. It's a 4/4.
I love the art. The art's
I do
amazing.
love the
Like,
art, yes.
it is such a horrific art. Here's the problem. It's in white and it's a panharmonicon, meaning it's not even special that it's a panharmonicon. They have fucking a million of those. It's a legendary creature that doubles a thing in white. Ooh, how spooky and novel.
Okay, to be in Mondrak's corner for a second, we determined that Red's version of horror is damaged upline, and that's how we can get across the narrative of Red in a horror sense in this world of Magic the Gathering. For this card is I know we have a lot of panharmonicon effects. There are also a lot of damage doubler effects in Red specifically. Is White's version like overrunning you? Like we can look at Skrelv, for example. I mean, Skrelv, I believe, was in the same set or right after. So the idea of all of these mites doubling and making lots of like these little guys that are crawling all over you, that's pretty horror oriented. And is that how White defines itself in this horror narrative that we're constructing? Like is that this what the argument for this card? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying like that's what we talked about for Solphim, so I wanted to bring it up here.
The problem with Red and versus this is it's always scary to have the shit beaten out of you. Like, the idea of being in more pain, no matter its source, is always going to be more horrific, versus Mondrak is, like, sometimes doubling rabbits. It's doubling Jeremy's, the 1/1 human soldier. Like, it's... Oh, fuck. Now there are 2 elephants. Like, that's not a horror movie plot. That's Indiana Jones. Like, even Skrelv. We love Skrelv because he's cute. The Magic community doesn't think Skrelv is incredible because he's a great horror design. They think Skrelv is a goofy little guy. And
this is true.
There's more goofy little dudes. Let's have a party.
White has inherently more silly guys than we devil with Mondrak than scary guys.
Yeah.
I was trying to give this Domini the same.
You're steelman. I get it.
I'm steelman it. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish that. I mean, like Joe said, the design of this character of Mondrak is maybe one of the cooler Magic designs ever. One of the cooler Phyrexian designs ever. It is just so bizarre and horror. And then as soon as you get to its text box, it just becomes generic. I think it also has the least interesting sacrifice clause because it's sacrificing you, or it's asking you to sacrifice creatures which it makes, which is not the horror thing. It's not asking you to pay a price. It's like, oh, you know the things I gave you? Can you feed them to my weird wheel mouths so that I can become indestructible? Thanks. It just, I don't know. I don't think this is horror. And to the point of, is this what mono white horror looks like? I don't think we have a really successful version of what the mono white horror looks like. Maybe it's Overlord of the Mistmoors. It's like the creeping suburbia of it. I also found I believe the first mono white horror in Wayward Angel. That's interesting because it's like corruption. I think that's something that I could see in a mono white horror, and indeed when you look up horror,
there's also
mono white, that's generally what you get is like the citizens of Innistrad being corrupted by the Eldrazi.
I think we're circling this one. The Secret Lair drop art of Bruna and Gisela, of Bracella is kind of my idea of mono white horror, but also the Elish Norn. We talked about Elish Norn earlier. The Elish Norn of this set works really, really well as like, this is what the horror of mono white, like, I do really like it's kind of generic. All the Praetors are a little generic in that they're like just doublers. But the idea of like, oh fuck, help cannot save you. Somebody entering the battlefield here to protect you, nothing happens.
Yeah.
You're screwed. Versus like, and I'm just gonna be mounting more and more shit. Like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
I that's what I would say should be mono white's horror. It should be like Grand Abolisher. It should be stacks.
Yeah.
Stacks is mono white horror. When your lifelines are cut. Whenever you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to find things that can help you and it's denied from
Yeah.
you. That's mono white's mechanics for horror.
Yeah, I think.
So really, if they had printed Mondrak as a stacks card, it would have been way better, and they should have done that. Wizards, come on now.
Yeah, I mean they did that. That's what the Elistone in the set did, and then Sheldon Menery was like, "We should ban this," and everyone's like, "No, it's stacks is fine." I want to bring up relevant to this conversation, shockingly, from everyone's least favorite unset, Unhinged, fascist art director, who is a human horror, and I think fascist art director is a better mono white horror card than this is, right? Like fascist art director is like the crushing force of capitalism. Mondrak's just some big wheel. Who cares?
I did have a new idea for mono white horror inspired by a recent set and also a set from the near future. That being, mono white horror is the horror of Duskmorn Banger, Orphans of the Wheat, and the Kithkin of Shadowmoor, and even the folk horror elements that existed in Midnight Hunt. There's a lot of good culty horror. There's a lot of folk horror that's been made. The Midsommar style of, insidious human-based community horror. The idea of like, what's scary about this are the ideas that have been internalized. Similar to fascism, but I wouldn't say fascist horror is really as big. The idea of this as like the old ways, right? The idea of from before times when things were more brutal and we had traditions and things we rightfully abandoned, but they're stalking us again. And this is I think what mono white horror looks like. And Mondrak doesn't do it well. Mondrak's aesthetics are very horrific, don't get me wrong. I do still agree that like mono white Phyrexians in this block, gorgeous. Love them. I think they're freaky as fuck. But the mechanics of what mono white plays into are things with tokens and community and anthems and how a legion basically like reinforces itself. I think that plays a lot better into, again, Ludo narrative than here's freaky ass artwork and the most generic text you've ever seen that don't really tie into each other at all.
D tier?
I think D tier for Mondrak.
I honestly almost want to give it an F.
Sure.
I think it's D tier though because the art's really good.
The art's
the
really
art
good.
is
Yeah, I think
it
the
just
art
barely
lifts it up
saves
enough.
it.
All right.
All right.
What's our last card here after going through Mondrak?
Here's a card I wanted to talk about since the start of the episode for a reason I will mention in a moment. Hullbreaker Horror. 5 and 2 blue for a creature, Kraken Horror. Flash. This spell can't be countered. Whenever you cast a spell, choose up to 1. Return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. 7/8. This is a crab. This is a big crab.
This is a big crab. It's true.
Like if I see
Wicked
this
magic
come up
card.
onto the shore, my thought process isn't like, holy fuck, this is some eldritch thing from beyond the stars. It's like, damn, I guess lobsters are immortal, huh? And I think
Yeah,
you
this
can
is
reinforce that with, like, they made it a Mirelurk in Fallout, and everyone was like, yeah, that makes sense. It's just a Kraken. It's not a horror.
It seems like they made it a horror because they went, oh, it's Innistrad, and their brain stopped working. Like, yeah, it's just a Kraken. It's a mono blue control finisher. Those have been Krakens and Leviathans and Sea Monsters for forever. I think if you look at the alternate art from Innistrad Remastered, it's just a Kraken. Sure, it's horrifying, and I'm sure there's horror stories about Krakens, whatever, but this isn't, it's horrific when it comes down to the table and takes over a game and ruins it, but it's not a horror.
I don't even think this card is this good. It's only like $2. I know this is a hot take. I've resolved this card multiple times and been hated out of the game for it, but I don't know. 7 mana, and it just bounces things.
I-
Like, if I see a Hullbreaker Horror crash down on the table, I'm not like, oh fuck, that's the threat. I'm like, wow, annoying piece that makes me have to recast my spells maybe once a turn cycle. Whatever.
I think
Especially if you're sleeving this in a deck that doesn't like this.
Yes.
This card's only frightening in a deck that's running like ponders and brainstorms and things. If you're not running it, if you're running it in a sea monsters deck when you're usually single spelling every
Yeah.
turn, it bounces a thing every turn. Yeah, it's 7 mana. It should win me the game and also suck me off for that cost.
Yeah, no, it's a control finisher. It's not a
basic
sea
7 mana
monster
card.
finisher.
I think you're slightly wrong with your theory. I think the reason why it was typed horror is late in the design document they realized horror was in its name, and the most annoying fucking people on Reddit would have cyberbullied Mark Rosewater if they didn't give it the type.
Yeah,
This
I
card
feel kind of
sucks.
nothing towards Hullbreaker Horror.
I think this card is our failure.
Yeah,
F.
we
This
got
isn't
some
even
hot
Blue's
takes
horror.
today. That's good.
Yeah,
Like,
I can't.
What
I'm
makes
surprised-
horrors blue is like things to do with, the occultic card draw stuff. Like, this isn't even Lovecraftian. Like,
Mhm.
Lovecraftian things are iconically goopy. This guy's just hard.
He should be goopier. Make him
Even
goopy.
his alt art that's goopy is just a big octopus. Like, give us some arms.
This would be a lot scarier if it had a Furby on it. Luckily, that'll. Oh shit! Fucking. This.
God damn it! Fuck, they're doing it.
Even when they fucking put a Furby on it, it's just a Furby that's undergoing carcinization. It's just a crab still.
All right, we have our
do you
hot
wanna
take
shout out-
list of horrors. What's our final stance on horrors? What have we learned? What's the moral of the episode?
I think Ev was signaling it, and that there are a lot of really banger horrors that are good horror designs that are not in the top 10 of EDH ref.
I was signaling it. Does everyone want to give one really quick? We don't have to read the rules text. Just shout them out. I have mine. I have a card I love.
I love a lot of these.
I'm gonna shout out
cards,
like
so
it's
six
gonna take me a
names.
second.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll actually.
let's throw them up on
Pull
screen.
mine out.
I'm gonna list off some horrors that you should be running instead of the top 10 horrors on EDH Rec. Consume Aberration, that one's pretty close. Nemesis of Reason, Master of Keys is the coolest fucking card ever. If you play that at a commander table, I hope you win. It's so neat. Flesh Reaver, Phyrexian Vat Mother, and of course this is a mono black draft chaff themed podcast. I have to give a shout out to Ravenous Gigamole, who's maybe the least horror on the last 6 I just shouted out, but I don't care. It's a mole horror. That's awesome.
I think I do love the Duskmourn. Duskmourn is a frustrating set. We've covered this time and time again because the nightmares and horrors on that plane, bangers, so fucking cool. It's just there's also a bunch of dipshit humans. Also, shout out to all the food horrors from Eldraine. They should be type food as well, but I do really like their aesthetic design. My 2 actual specific cards I really like are Uchulon. I really, really want this card to work. I wish there was a deck for this card that wasn't the precon. It's so silly. Crab Ooze Horror. Funny type. Exactly what we wanted for this. And then, probably my favorite card that is a horror, Demolisher Spawn. I really wish this card had a deck. Like, it's just not really impressive enough for a lot of decks. It's hard to justify anywhere that isn't just a bespoke Delirium build. But fuck is its art really, really cool. It reminds me of the SCP, the Rapidly Regenerating Lizard, or whatever it's called. I don't know. I'm 22 now. I don't go on the SCP wiki.
I got 3. I have Creeping In, which is the backside of Hostile Hostel, which I love. You take a land, you turn it into a horror creature, and it starts eating creatures from graveyards. I think it's awesome. Plague Spitter's a great one. Plague Spitter's awesome. A great
I
Phyrexian
love
horror.
Plague Spitter.
Yeah,
That
Plague
guy's so
Spitter's a-
fucking funny.
Plague Spitter's a banger. And maybe my favorite horror, also from Duskmourn, Silent Hall Creeper. I love it. It's so freaky. That card is also such a house. It is so good. I run it in my Azorius Enchantments deck now. I adore. Every time I get to play it, I'm like, this card fucking rules. For the art, for the effects, for it being scary, and the narrative, all the choices you can make. Yeah, Silent Hall Creeper, especially the alt art of Silent Hall Creeper, so good, so good, so good.
Right, well, friends, Denzians, countrymen, we are, I think, at the end of our horror episode. Whether you are yourself, I don't know, a shrill howler or a cabal therapist yourself, we were very, very happy that you joined us for our spookiest Bogstomper episode to date. Please, other than wishing our dear friend and co-host Bobby a happy birthday in the comments, suggest what you would like us to cover maybe for next year's Halloween episode. It might not come out quite as timely. It might be a week before or after, depending on when it falls, but, should we cover skeletons, vampires, ghouls, and goblins? Who can say? Thank you so much for listening to our spookiest Halloween episode, and get ready for the grisliest, ghouliest, creepiest outro music by our maestro in-house composer, Alicia Chapman. Bye-bye. Play us off.
And happy Halloween! Bogstompers, a Magic the Gathering podcast, features art by Jay Howley, music by Alicia Chapman, and is edited by Bobby Fasciano. Hey, that's me. If you want to help the podcast out, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this with your friends. Every little bit helps make this the best Magic the Gathering podcast out there. Peace.